Thank you, Lori, and thanks for coming to my presentation. Quite applicable to everything we do, whether it's working or just reading online or whatever we do. So I'm going to talk about ergonomics, active desking, that's my little word, working online, and then a way to improve our health and our productivity. Okay? What's that? Wait, sorry about that. Okay, so my objectives for today. So understand the hazards of sitting all day, working from your couch, understand the role of a sedentary work life, okay, and how it affects our health and our productivity with work. How to set up an ergonomic workspace, and then some alternatives. How can you combat some of the negatives of sitting all day? So sedentary behavior. So the definition is basically, it's the activities that we do sitting and reclining. So we do a lot of things sitting, and the idea is not to sit for very long periods of time. So, we'll learn about how to combat that. And then looking at how many of us are sitting all day long. We spend about half to 2/3 of our workday sitting. And if you think about the average person is working about 47 hours a week, I think we can identify with that. And 1 in 5 workers are working 60 hours. So if we're spending 40 to 60 hours a week sitting in our chair, that's a lot of sitting, really impacting our health and our ability to really concentrate and work. And as we know, it results in a lot of musculoskeletal issues, chronic disease, and obesity. So, you know, and recently there's public health messages. The Attorney General has set up back in September a national awareness of walking, a campaign to try to get people to get up and get out and walk. You'll notice workplaces are having programs, wellness programs, to try to get people to walk and be more active during their day, whether it's having a gym within the agency or memberships, different like competitions within one department, working against all the other departments. And I think it does get people motivated. You know, you wear your pedometer. You know, I'd say about every 2 to 3 days I see articles about this in the ANA Smart Brief, whether it's about a workplace program or the risks of sedentary behavior. And that sedentary behavior is not just working online, but it's sitting there and, you know, looking on your iPad or watching TV, video games, things like that. So, and the CDC talks about 150 minutes, right? Moderate intensity per week. And if you break that down to your work week, 5 days, say, that's about 30 minutes a day. But that's moderate intensity. So the more intense, the less minutes, the less intense, the more minutes. So that's kind of just a middle ground. So of course, any advice I share here is really just general advice. I can't tell you to get up and go walk on your treadmill. So, just to give you some ideas of what we can do.
Hey, Jamie, your screen is white, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be, but it is on most of our ends.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Why don't you try unsharing and just starting over?
Yeah,
sharing,
okay.
if it refreshes or something.
Okay.
There we go.
There it is.
Now we see.
Well, when I'm in the presentation mode, so you didn't see that piece?
No, I see the edit mode, but now you went to presentation mode. It's blank. It's white.
Now it's blank.
Yeah.
This is probably part of the new PowerPoint, and I only know this because we had this issue when I was speaking on campus 2 weeks ago.
It's Prezi though. This is not PowerPoint. It's Prezi.
It's Prezi.
Oh, then I get nothing.
Yeah. So I'll just keep it like this, and you'll just see the left side of it. Do you see the left side piece?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's cool.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so so you didn't really, these are the objectives.
You presented them really well.
I did. They're exactly the wording. Okay, so in that case, can I go? I think I need to go back. This is,
Since you work so hard on the screens, feel free to go back and show us.
So this is the actual slide on the sedentary behavior. The definition, talking about how much we're working all day, chronic disease, and our CDC goal. Okay. And you're probably saying to yourself, your couch is really comfortable. But I think that unless you have, this is, again, my personal thoughts on this is, unless you have musculoskeletal issues, you might not really feel that you have any pain, but it doesn't mean that you're not causing any pain, any musculoskeletal strain on your muscles and your spine. So just think about that as you make decisions as to where you want to set up your computer and work. So let's talk a little bit about the research. So time spent sitting, that's how it's being measured, is how many minutes you're sitting. This first study by Proper and colleagues is a systematic review looking at studies from 96 to 2011, up until that point, related to a strong correlation with all-cause mortality and CVD mortality, moderate correlation with diabetes, and as well as development of obesity and cancer. So everybody is different with their risk factors, modifiable risk factors. And this sitting is a modifiable activity that we can make a change on. This next study by Vanderploeg and colleagues, this was a very large epidemiological study in Australia. Again, confirmed the all-cause mortality, which is independent of physical activity. So those who are running 5 miles at the end of their workday and they're still sitting all day long at their desk, they are still at risk for this mortality. And again, sitting is 7% of premature deaths. So it's definitely something to keep in mind as we make our decisions. A little bit more research. This study here by Thorpe and colleagues. This one was a smaller study, not a systematic review, but a small study of overweight to obese female workers, just about 25 or so. But they found that these workers had increased fatigue, lower back, and reduced concentration and focus. And then they had those individuals do more active sit and stand position changes, and those all improved. So there are, again, depending upon your current musculoskeletal situation, you might not see the same improvements, but that's there. And the next two studies, the one about depression and anxiety, both of these research studies were systematic reviews as well, showing increased sitting time leads to increased risk of depression and anxiety. So we might not feel those effects on a day-to-day basis, but over a long period of time, those types of concerns do occur. So the first step to looking at this to make some positive changes in your routine is to plan your ergonomic workstation, right? How are you sitting? What does your office look like? Things like that. So here's a diagram of an individual sitting on their chair at a desk looking at their monitor. You'll notice that your eyes need to be at the top of your monitor. And again, you can adjust that very easily, whether it's with a book or two, but having that a neutral alignment makes a big difference. Having your elbows and your hips at a 90 to 120 degree angle, and having your feet flat on the ground. So you want to make sure that your seat can be adjusted up and down so your legs aren't hanging and they're supported. Okay. And speaking about chairs, there's so many chairs out there, and I've had many different chairs over the years. And I found, and I've also researched this here, that there's a number of pieces to that chair that you really want to make sure that are in good shape for you. A comfortable cushion. So after a period of years, you might want to look at getting a new chair. Armrests. There's adjustable armrests, and you'll see in the next slide, adjusting the seat height and the back height. Sometimes the back can go up and down as well. Lumbar support, and then swiveling around. You'll find that, because I've also used different chairs if I go to another room, if you have a chair that you don't have wheels or are using a dining room chair, which could be fine for a period of time, you might not realize that if you're going to reach for something, you are going to feel a strain in your side by just reaching for an object versus if you had wheels, you are gliding toward it. So, all right, here's a little video of my office chair.
So this is my office chair. I find one of the best parts of the chair is that the armrests go up and down, and you can just have it reach right through the front of your elbow, and you can have it move in and out according to what is most comfortable. Of course, chairs that swivel and move are helpful. Being able to lean backwards, have a little bit of break off of the pressure when you're swiveling. This chair has an adjustment for the lumbar spine that kind of position it right there for lower back. And
that's my office chair. Does anybody have any questions where I'm at this point in time?
I do, Jamie.
Okay.
I found one thing I really like, and I don't have at this moment, but I've had it in the past, is a little platform, for lack of a better word, that's under my desk for my feet. And it just sort of brings my knees up a little bit.
Right.
Makes all the difference. And I've been trying to find something to use because I sort of, well, long story, I don't have it anymore. So what can you tell me about that?
Well, I think as long as you're keeping your hip in that 90-degree angle, that your knees aren't going above your hips, I think that is when that would be an issue. Okay. When we get to the standing piece, you'll see that in the diagram, one leg is down, the other leg is going to be up on a little platform. So I think as long as you have the angles correct, you would be fine with having a platform on your feet. I know I do the same thing. I have a little platform under my desk and my legs go up there, but the angle works. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I find it more comfortable, even though I'm trying to, do all the right things. I just find it more comfortable, but I didn't know if that was to my detriment or to my
No, just keep the right angles is really looking at that piece of it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Jamie, I have a quick question. And as we discussed, I am the poster child for every bad thing you're talking about in this as I'm sitting on my couch with my computer on my lap today. And part of it, I think, is because my office, which I have, and I've got a chair and it does all the fun things that your chair does, is in a level of my house that's a layer lower. So it has less natural light, which I hate, as opposed to being upstairs where I've got all this natural light and makes me not want to take a nap in the middle of the day. And so I didn't know if when we're thinking about where, and I'm sure you're probably going to get to it, but like I looked at your video and your computer is nowhere. I know your computer's probably sitting over on the treadmill. So are you going to address, and you can, so if you are getting to that point, I'll totally stop talking, but are you going to address sort of where, regardless of where we are, where our computer should be in relationship to where our bottom is?
Well, when you're sitting, just like that diagram, your monitor should be eye level. The top of your monitor should be that's exactly where it is right now. My eyes are lined up right with my webcam at the top of my monitor.
Yeah, I feel like when I sit on the couch, mine is too, but then I know everything you've told me so far says I shouldn't be on the couch at all. So then that takes that out.
Again, if you want to be on the couch, you can put a tray table in front of you and then put a couple of books on top of the tray table and then your laptop on top of that. You're likely going to have the top of the monitor equal to your eyes.
That sounds like a horrible accident.
I did actually buy a tray table knowing that Jamie was talking about that, and it's lovely, and it's bamboo, and it's got a cup holder, and even has a drawer, and my cats think it's the best thing I've ever brought in the house, so it almost defeats the purpose of getting work done. But
I think, until you feel pain, like I know when I'm out of alignment with just looking like a half an inch too high or a half an inch too low, it doesn't work. I can feel it in seconds. So for somebody who doesn't feel it and you're not aligning it, I think I'm not a doctor, but I feel like you are causing strain because you're not being told by your nerve endings you're doing something wrong, you know? So I know you have to, I'm very careful when I do arrangements like that with books. You do have to be careful with that.
I'm going to end up back in my basement office tomorrow.
Okay. So how do I, so now that I got, okay, so this is 10, whoops, where's it going? Okay. So here's a picture of any old office chair. You can convert that into something that gives you that curve in your lower back. These, I've seen these at the dollar store for $1 or so. Certainly it's not like your, you know, beautiful, expensive office chair, but it's definitely something to make an improvement in your sitting. So when you're standing, okay, a lot of the same ergonomics, again, the 90-degree angle in your elbow, standing on a soft mat, and you can see the one leg is up on a footrest, okay? Ideally, an arm's length between you and your monitor. Now, I'm a little bit off on that. I don't understand that piece of it. I think as long as you're able to see okay, it might be an eye strain issue. But otherwise, you can see that, you know, the posture is straight, and you've got a chair to sit on as needed. Okay. And so here's an option for a standing desk. Again, these standing desks, and Christina can has the same thing, right? Some of them are cranks, some are electric. You have options of standing and sitting and alternating your sitting and standing. And so you're not, you know, sedentary all day long. Now, look at the girl there. She's got heels on. So you might go to work in heels, but I think it's important when you're standing to make sure that you've got some support in your feet and a cushion. Some of the reasons, go ahead, Christina, go ahead. Tell me your experience.
I just wanted to comment on the footrest. I think I need a footrest when I'm standing, because I find, and depending on the shoes I wear, it's so funny to say that, you know, like I stood all morning and I was fine, but then towards the end of the morning, my lower back was kind of, and I feel like, and I kept sort of shifting my legs, and now I feel like, wow, I wonder if I had a foot support, if that would actually take some of the pressure off my lower back.
Right.
And also if I just generally wear less cute shoes, but I don't know. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for that little tip.
Yeah. Oh, Christina, you don't own not cute shoes.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Let's get real.
Well, keep your sneakers at work. That's all I could say. So looking at one of the studies, there's so many studies out on this topic. In an 8-hour workday, the sitting and standing option, the studies, the meta-analyses have shown 77 minutes in an 8-hour day reduces your sedentary behavior. So 77 minutes, a little over an hour a day, that's pretty significant. But another interesting study that I read was that, you might be doing a great job at work and standing and treadmilling or whatever option you choose, but then some people will go home and sit the rest of the afternoon, evening, because they have stood all day long. And then you don't want to lose those benefits that you've gained from standing and being more active during the day. So, so they're looking at, well, what happens when people go home from work? So just keep that piece in mind as you are active at work. Because I know at the end of my day, I'm exhausted sometimes when my legs are tired, and I want to sit, but I got a lot to do too. So it hasn't really been an issue for me, but it can be. Standing, as you said, Christina, it can cause some lower back pain. It can cause other issues. Depends on your risk factors, but the benefits do outweigh the risks, again, depending upon your issues. People have said that they perceive sitting as more comfortable than standing. So like when I'm not walking and I haven't turned my treadmill on yet, I might just stand there for a bit of time. I find it very uncomfortable. Maybe it is because I'm just standing straight and my foot's not up and it's not cushioned. So you have to find the right option for you. And some price ranges here, $200 to $1,000 crank versus electric. You know, you can certainly do your own option here, but we'll get to that. This setup, you can sit and stand in the same place and not have a standing desk. You move the monitor and your workspace up and down as you sit and stand, okay? This is about $360, okay? I know my brother has one of these. He loves it. He loves it. You don't have to change where your mouse is, your keyboard, or anything. This is the free option. This is the one I was referring to. Do-it-yourself standing desk. I know people that have done this where there is no money at their workplace to be able to institute some alternatives. And they just bring in an extra table that's lying around the office and they just build one. And it works great. This person has a mat, but I'm not sure if the barefoot piece is probably the best way to go, but everybody has their preference with that. But this doesn't have to cost money is what I'm trying to give you some ideas here. And something that I learned here was to have the letter B right in front of you, because keyboards a lot of your keyboards now, maybe not on your laptop, but you've got the numbers. So you want to make sure that your arms are not moving too far to the right or left. So position right in front of the B, keep your mouse close, and instead of having to look down all the time, feel for the bumps on the F and J keys, because it hurts me to look down all the time, so I'm always feeling for those bumps, and it's really helped me. And the less repetitive movements that you do are really going to be helpful, because this is a repetitive job, the repetitive injury type job, so those little tips are helpful. So that's the standing. You can also do some more movement. So treadmill desking, bicycle desking, or pedals. So we'll start with the treadmill desking. And I'll show you my office. Now, this is a panoramic view, so it's a little distorted there, but you can see my two workstations, my sitting on the left, and then my treadmill's on the right. And so, I mean, at this point, I usually stay at one station. Basically, I start walking and I do all my miles and then I sit. But I think I'm going to alternate. It takes 2 minutes to move my laptop from one station to the next. I just bring my laptop over and the mouse over. But I have a keyboard at each station, a hard drive at each station. I'm like, everything that I would use for one station is duplicated. And that happened over time. I used to have to move more things. But you'll notice some important things in my office are the water bottles. Always keep water. I have a roller on the bottom left there to roll out as I'm, in between my sessions, a mat that I lay on and I stretch. And of course the green plants, right? Makes the environment kind of fun. And unfortunately, I do have a big room I can do this. You can do some other options with very little space, so we'll get to that. But in looking at studies that look at treadmill desk versus sit and stand, I think there's been more improvement in reduction of hip and waist and body size measurements compared to sitting, standing. And also,
Jamie, can you say that again?
Sure. Individuals that are on treadmills tend to have, higher improvements in reductions of waist measurements, hip measurements, and weight. Okay, and a more improved psychological well-being as well.
And I'm sorry, did you say how much time was part of that correlation?
No, I didn't. I don't have that. But again, I think it becomes a personal preference as well. Yes, you might lose more inches, but if you hate walking on a treadmill, you're not going to do it. I've found that I couldn't stand, and walking works for me. And having a treadmill doesn't really take any extra work per se. You do have to maintain it with spraying some lubricant under the belt. I do that once a month. It takes 5 minutes. Other than that, it's pretty maintenance free. It's very quiet. Okay. So it's just a little closer version of the desk. I have the Lifespan brand. There are many brands out there. I did a lot of research before I bought this. There's 3 levels with this brand. This was the middle version. It did cost $1,000 for the treadmill and then $1,000 for the desk. Now, I did not have to get that desk. You can see I built 2 shelves. And you can see the 2 monitors on top of that white shelf. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Can you see my mouse here?
Yep.
Okay. So I built these 2 shelves, one on the side and one here, when I had my running treadmill. I didn't have this at the time because I had been saying for years, I got to get moving. I'm sitting here all these hours. And I had the treadmill right behind me. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to move it up to the wall. And it worked out well for quite a while. It was 15 years old, but you can't walk on a running treadmill. It needs to go fast in order for it to cool down. So it eventually burnt out. So I decided to get the desk so I had more space for things. And I kept my monitors up there. Okay. So this setup is $2,000 plus $500 to put it together. I know it sounds like a lot of money. I find, over the period of years that I'll be using this, I believe the quality of life that I'm going to get as a result of putting out this money up front, reduced musculoskeletal problems, I feel better. I'm stronger. My legs were usually pretty weak because I don't like to exercise. I don't like it. And it is I'm surprised myself that I actually get on there every single day. It's quiet, smooth. You don't even hear it. So you've got to, I guess, look at your what's important to you there. So here's a close-up of the desk and how the keyboard is set up. In the next picture, you'll see how well that keyboard is. That's why I bought this desk in particular. They call it a steady type keyboard. And it makes it easy when you're walking. You're not holding on, you're really going pretty slow, but it's very comfortable. And you can see the location of the mouse. It's pretty close. And I've got place on there to put, you know, books. I often am writing notes right there. And you see my, my weights. So that's that. And to the shelf on the right, this is the console that it has a Bluetooth. Right here is a little button you press, and it syncs with my computer, and it uploads all of this information to a website. So I constantly have this whole readout on my little monitor, and so I can see where I'm at. And so this is an average day, and this is the maximum that I can go is 6 hours with this treadmill. So 9 miles, you know, so those are the steps. I really look at the time when I'm doing this. I can make this box smaller on my computer, so I'm not looking at this whole big thing. And I just look at my time because I know I have to stop at 6, and that's when I move over to my desk. So, and it's free, this Lifespan website software. You can do more with it. I just look at it to track my progress. It doesn't cost anything for that. Okay, here's my little video. So here we go.
All right, I'm going to talk to you about my treadmill and go over my setup here and the type of treadmill that I have. So coming over here, you'll notice that I have a desk, which is a desk that can be used for a standing desk, and it can also be used to be put over a treadmill. So what I have here is a separate treadmill, and the desk is on top. And then over here on the right is the control panel that kind of you can increase the speed, turn it on, turn it off, things like that. Okay. And then over here I have a shelf that I built for my laptop as well as my external monitor. And previously to getting this set up, I had a regular running treadmill, and that treadmill burned out pretty quickly because you can't walk on a treadmill for any period of time, it'll burn out. These walking treadmills are good for specified periods of time. The one I bought is good for 6 hours for one person. And then there's other treadmills that are good for like 10 hours a day. And then it has different adjustments that you can use for multiple users. So the height of the desk can be adjusted by using the stand crank. There are some standing desks that are electric, but I like this one. I especially liked the recessed keyboard. And you can see how, as you're standing here in the position of my wrists, that there's less strain going from here to here, okay? It's important, I found, to keep everything close by. My weights, I've got water, you know, so everything is really close by. And something that I added recently was a webcam for the monitor that's like right in front of me. Because when I would do my Zoom meetings, I was constantly having to turn my head to look at that monitor, and so then that kind of caused some pain. So this way I've got the monitor straight ahead, and my looking at the ergonomics, my eyes are equal to the top of the monitor. And I have the desk at the right angle for my elbows, about 90 degrees or so. You want to keep your mouse close to the keyboard. And again, having the letter B right in front of you is the position for the keyboard. And I often use the little bumps on the F and J, so I don't have to keep looking down to get my fingers aligned up with the keyboard. So I just kind of feel for those bumps. It saves me a lot of looking down. So, so what I'll do first is I'll turn the treadmill on. It's going to go on at 0.4 miles per hour, which is quite slow. It's actually uncomfortable to walk that slow. So that's the slowest it goes. A lot of times when I need to write during meetings, I'll put it up to about 1 mile per hour. So this is 1. So I'm able to have something here and I can write, and it's still pretty comfortable. Okay? And I can easily change. I'm in the forums now. I can pretty much read pretty well, and you know, move documents, you know, from one to another. It's really very comfortable. And now when I'm going up to 1.5 miles per hour, this is my normal speed, and I get about 8 to 9 miles per day at this speed. And even typing at this level, so I feel very capable. I adapted to this speed pretty quickly. Some people, it takes a little bit of time to get used to typing and walking. I found that I was actually more accurate the slower I walked. So I did work my way up to 1.5. So this readout here, you want to come a little closer? This is the readout that I get for, it shows all of my statistics for the day so far. Okay. And I have my weights, and I can easily, if I'm looking at my students' work, I can very easily, with very light weights, 1 to 2 pounds, I'm easily doing this like that. And again, this is at 1.5 miles an hour, so it's pretty easy to do. But again, I have a workout tool. So that's my treadmill.
That's the treadmill. There's something else. Oh, I wanted to mention that the maximum speed is 4 miles per hour. So if you wanted to do some exercise, or somebody else in the family, it's, you know, it's a reasonable speed. There are some treadmills that go up to a maximum of 2 miles an hour. So, so you need to just look at that part of it. So if you're not interested in walking, you can bike to work, use your own bike. You can purchase a cycle with a little seat on it like that. Prices are, you know, different ranges. To use your own bicycle, you need to buy like it's called a trainer, so your wheels spin. It's pretty inexpensive, versus about $300. And then you add your desk. You can use a desk that you buy or one that you purchase, that you have already. And there's different types of pedals. Now, these are one of the options that you can fit in the smallest of spaces underneath your desk. I've had patients when I was in home health, they would have these little pedals under their kitchen table or next to their couch. Really inexpensive. You can have this one, like the desk cycle, $159. You're able to get some statistics with that. Probably a little more resistance, measuring the resistance. And the seated elliptical, okay? This one's a little more pricier. I found a study on the seated elliptical, and this one, it didn't have as many better health outcomes as I thought it would have, but it does improve your light intensity activity. Individuals were less likely to call out from work, and they had improved concentration. So no changes in musculoskeletal or CBD outcomes, but if you're feeling better at work, you're moving a little bit, your legs are not so like lethargic, you feel better approach to your day. Stretching and strengthening. So that's a really important piece throughout your workday. Again, 1 to 2 pounds, even sitting in your chair, lifting weights. It's really very simple. Leave it on your desk, you see it. And these Aero mats, that's the brand Aero mat. Until I saw these mats at a gym I went to once, They are so soft. You really don't mind going onto the floor on those mats. They're wonderful. Stretches at your desk are very important. And so if you look at some of these pictures, you can see the dark areas, the areas that you're stretching, your hands from the mouse. These are the muscles that get stiff, and when you're sitting in the chair, you're often hunching over. So by doing those stretches, you're really getting all these muscles loosened up, okay? And this one's a yoga move that I've done quite often. So every 30 to 60 minutes. And your eyes. The picture in the top left corner, palming. This one is where you close your eyes and you put your hands over your eyes, and you do that a few minutes, 5 minutes. It's very calming and relaxing, because what's happening is you're really looking at one distance for hours at a time, and this way you're just relaxing your eyes. And this picture here, you see different, you're looking at different distances. Here, looking around in a circle 3 times. And then the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, look away for 20 feet, and you do it for 20 seconds. So what I do is I look out my window from either position, and I got my 20 feet. Any questions about this so far?
Jamie, do you have any recommendations about timers that you like to help remind you to get up and stretch?
I use my phone. I use my cell phone. Yeah. I have it right here on my desk. It's on a stand, and I talk to it. I just say set timer for 30 minutes. And I just do that every time. It works for me. Yeah. So. Okay. So, and posture. Posture is a big part, right? You do those stretches, your posture is going to improve. And then if you also think about when you're standing, sitting, and standing, I don't know, Christina, if you feel a difference in how well you breathe, when you're sitting, you're able to expand your lungs better, and you're probably likely standing a little bit straighter than you would be sitting. I often find myself hunching over. One of the best exercises, I think, to help my posture is to stand in the doorway and just kind of press on the edges, and you lean forward, and it really stretches all this area out. And I'll say for like 10 minutes after that stretch, I feel much more comfortable, you know, and you won't look like that at 6 p.m. at night. I'll tell you that. So you can make minor changes, moving around with your desk or a bike or pedals, stretch, strengthen, get a good chair. And you probably won't want to buy one of those head pillows to sleep on your desk or sleep under your desk. Those are funny pictures, but it really does make you feel better. My legs feel like not my legs before I got this walking treadmill. I feel so much better. And Lori, you may not want to sit on your couch anymore except for watching television, because you know what? You might find how much more comfortable you are if you really get the right room, the right environment, and set those rooms up just right. And the same books that you put underneath your monitor to make that work.
I'm thinking we need to put in for a $25,000 grant, basically, at this point for the entire department.
So that's that. Thank you. That's my presentation.
Jamie, again, if I missed this, I apologize. But so is it more beneficial to do some level of activity midday than either front loading it or back loading it?
Throughout the day is key. It's pretty much at least every hour. It's extremely important to get up for at least 5 minutes and do some type of stretch. Even if it's you're in your doorway and you do a stretch, walk around the office for 5 minutes. Stand it, if there's some way to stand at your desk and set something up, even if it's for a few minutes, just to get the load off your, and your breathing. So yeah, it's really not front loading or back loading. It's all day.
And Jamie, I don't know if you were monitoring the chat, but Christina had chatted in and said she read a statistic somewhere that sitting for a total of more than 3 hours a day, aside from sleeping, starts to have adverse effects on the body. Did you come across any of that sort of longer term research?
Adverse effects on the body? In what way, Christina?
No, I mean, you had talked about all the different statistics and time and the 77 minutes, I think it was. And I was just saying that I had come across info that said that it's, if you're sitting a total of more than 3 hours a day, that's when. Oh,
okay. I see what you mean now.
Right. So I was just kind of like comparing that info, and if you had come across that statistic yourself, or.
I did not. But I think overall, the idea is the fact that if you're sitting for hours without a break and not getting up to stretch or move, get the circulation to your legs, you're starting to compound more risk factors to sedentary behaviors. Yeah. I didn't come across a 3-hour mark. So. But I think stretching is key, and not to go by how you feel. You might feel good, but you're tight. You're probably tight and hunching over, and yeah. So.
Well, and I wonder if Elizabeth had said that there's a stretch clock app that's great, and there's a free version that reminds you to stretch every hour. Yeah. And I know for a lot of our I'm thinking from a student perspective, you know, in traditional campus classes, we ask them to sit for huge periods of time in lectures, and we get very cranky when they get up and start walking around. But I'm also wondering for our online students that may be sitting down and doing chunks of work at a time due to their home life balance, I wonder if it's worth sharing some sort of highlights of this, even just in our announcements, as just like a little unrelated FYI about taking better care of themselves. Because I know that right now, UNIV, we just wrapped up this whole discussion on time management, and so many of them are saying they're going to sit down after working their 8, 10, 12 hours and getting their kids fed and getting everyone ready for the next day, that they're going to sit down and do chunks of work at a time after having a very long day. And it's sort of the antithesis of everything that you've just talked about. But I think a lot of our students don't have, you know, just one job or just academic responsibility. So it might be interesting to share some of these better health tips with them as well.
Yeah, best practices. Yeah.
And I like the stretch clock because you can pause it. So if you're in a meeting, you can stop it. And when you restart it, it automatically restarts the clock to come up and remind you to move.
What was that clock? Sorry, Elizabeth?
It's called Stretch Clock.
Stretch Clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it downloads a little icon on your desk, and you can tell whether to let you know to get up every hour and a half, every 90 minutes, you know, 2 hours, and then you can stop it if you need to pause it because you're in a meeting or whatever.
Now that you say that, Elizabeth, I did have this app on my computer. It was a heart, and every hour my whole computer would go dark. So it became inconvenient because I wasn't able to actually get my work. I was in the middle of a project and I had to get out of the app. So
now this one just pops up, the free version, and if you do the subscription for the year or whatever, you get more exercises and more variety in different locations. But even the free one, it pops up on, sorry, my brain went blank there. It actually pops up on a web page.
Yeah.
Taking over your whole computer.
Okay.
Well, and I'm looking at it from a mobile perspective right now. I just jumped in the app store to see what they have, and they've got probably 5 or 6 different free versions that literally tell you stretch left, stretch right, stretch a calf, stretch your neck. Like some of them are there's a PT timer, and there's another one that's it's the first one that actually comes up, and it's called Stand Up, the work break timer, and it appears to be free on initial searching.
Okay.
But so there's probably 4 or 5 of them that for mobile devices would probably maybe even take up less room than on our computers.
There are a bunch of choices, and that's one of the reasons I asked the question, because I used to use Stretch Clock, but I recently discovered that it only works in Firefox, and Chrome is my browser of choice right now. So I was trying to find something, and I found another one that I'm trying, but it requires me to open it in a separate window, and I don't always remember to do that. So,
What browser did you just say you used?
I'm sorry, what?
Which browser did you say you used?
Chrome.
Because it pops up fine for me in Google Chrome.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm using it on.
Okay. I'll have to look into that again.
Yeah.
Mine was a plugin in Firefox, and they said that they don't have a plugin for Chrome, but maybe you said it's installed on your desktop?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, that's very good to know. I'll add some information about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
That was great, Jamie. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope get a little stretches in there or bring some 1-pound weights to work, Mary Pat. Maybe.
Jamie, I think when you present over the teaching and sharing ideas day, we could just bring Christina's stand-up desk right over there so they have an on-campus example.
Yeah, I think I do well in the morning.
Yeah.
It's what happens after that.
Right. I think making it easy and accessible, and if it's only going to take up 1 or 2 minutes of your time, you can fit it in. Like I might just do 10 reps reading somebody's assignment and not get back to it for a while, but it's still 10 reps that I got in.
Yeah.
And I think it is going to add up if it's sitting right in front of me.
Right.
So, yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you very much. I need to run. That was great.
Okay.
Looking forward to the next program committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I think our next program is actually probably going to be Julie talking about some grade mark with Turnitin. So I think we are not presenting in December because of the holiday and winter break, but we're going to meet with Julie to figure out what works for beginning of the session in spring session. So
sounds good.
Look for grade mark coming to a lunch and learn near you. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I'm going to shut the recording off, and I'll have it available once Zoom threads it and sends it back to me.
Thanks, Jamie.
Okay.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jill.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.